line, Pennebaker climbed out of bed and sat down at a typewriter. He stared at the machine for a moment and then started writing freely and frankly about his marriage, his parents, his sexuality, his career, and even death. As he wrote and continued to write in the days that followed, something fascinating happened. His depression lifted and he felt liberated. He began to reconnect with his deep love for his wife, but the writing had an even further reaching impact. For the first time, he started to see the purpose and possibilities of his life. Pennebaker's own experience getting through this rocky period sparked 40 years of research into the links between writing and emotional processing. Over and over again, Pennebaker did studies in which he would divide people into two groups and ask one group to write about emotionally significant experiences and the other to write about everyday things, their shoes, or maybe the cars passing on the street. Both groups wrote for the same time span, about 20 minutes a day, 3 days in a row. In Pennebaker's experiments, some participants in the emotionally significant writing group wrote about sexual abuse by one's trusted family members, some about catastrophic failures, others about the devastating losses of their deepest relationships through breakups, illness, and death. One woman described unfathomable guilt stemming from an incident that had happened when she was 10. She had left a toy on the floor, and her grandmother had slipped on it and fallen, ultimately leading to the grandmother's death. Another man wrote about a warm summery night when he was 9 years old. His father had taken him outside and calmly announced that having children had been the biggest mistake of his life and that he was leaving. In each study, Pennebaker found that the people who wrote about emotionally charged episodes experienced a marked increase in their physical and mental well being. They were happier, less depressed, and less anxious. In the months after the writing sessions, they had lower blood pressure, better immune function, and few doctor visits. They also reported higher quality relationships, better memory, and more success at work. When I first discovered Pennebaker's research, I was struck by the ways it echoed my own teenage experience journaling about my father's cancer. While my father was dying, and then when he was gone, my life was painfully different, and the writing helped me voice my regret about all the time hadn't spent with him and all the things I hadn't said. I also wrote about the moments I didn't regret and how I had done the best I could. Through that writing, I learned to sit with all my emotions, both the pleasant and unpleasant ones. This in turn gave me insight about myself, the most important revelation being I am resilient. I realized that I can live with my full self, even the parts I'm not so thrilled about. Still, I was skeptical of Pennebaker's results, which seemed too good to be true. How could writing for just 20 minutes a day for 3 days have had such a positive and lasting effect on people's lives? I kept Pennebaker's research tagged in my notebooks. Then, many years later, when I was doing my PhD on emotions, I had a chance dinner with him. This meeting led to much animated discussion, after which I took a deeper dive into his work. I read about an intervention Pennebaker had conducted at a Dallas computer company that had laid off 100 senior engineers. Most of these were men over 50 who had worked at the company since college. This was the only work life they knew, and getting pushed out had left them panicked and confused. They faced the real likelihood of never working in their field again. After 4 months, not one of them had found a new job. Pennebaker and his team wondered if writing about their experiences could help the downsized engineers, eager to try anything that might improve their employment prospects. The engineers agreed to participate. Penbaker had one group of engineers write about being laid off. They dwelled into their feelings of humiliation, rejection, and outrage, the related strains on their health, marriages, and finances, and their deep worries about the future. The two control groups either wrote about time management or didn't write at all. Before the writing began, there were no differences between the groups in terms of motivation or the effort they were making to land a new job. But afterward, the degree of change between them was astonishing. Just months after the emotionally charged writing sessions, the men who had delved into how they truly felt were 3 times more likely to have been re employed than those in the control groups. The writing not only helped the men process their experiences, it helped them step out from their despondent inertia and into meaningful action. After many more studies with many thousands of participants, children and the elderly, students and professionals, the healthy and the sick, we can say with confidence that showing up and applying words to emotions is a tremendously helpful way to deal with stress, anxiety, and loss. For people who don't like putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, there is nothing magical about the act of writing per se. Talking into a voice recorder, for example, can deliver the same result. But after showing up, there's another critical aspect of agility: stepping out. Deeper analysis over the years shows that, unlike brooders or bottlers, or those who let it all hang out in big venting rants, the writers in these experiments who thrived the most began to develop insight using phrases such as, "I have learned," "It struck me that," "The reason that," "I now realize," and "I understand." In the process of writing, they were able to create the distance between the thinker and the thought, the feeler and the feeling, that allowed them to gain a new perspective, unhook, and move forward. Make no mistake, these people had not found a way to enjoy being betrayed, lost, jobless, or critically ill, but by dissolving the entanglement that had built up between their impulses and their actions, so they could see their experience in context and from a broader perspective. They flourished despite it all. More often than you might expect, they found ways of turning these obstacles into opportunities to connect more directly with their deepest values. Penbaker's writing rules. Set a timer for 20 minutes, open up your notebook, or create a new document on your computer. When the timer starts, begin writing about your emotional experiences from the past week, month, or year. Don't worry about punctuation, sloppiness, or coherence. Simply go wherever your mind takes you, curiously and without judgment. Write just for yourself and not for some eventual reader. Do this for a few days, then throw the paper away or stick it in a bottle and cast it out to sea. Or close the document without saving it. Or if you are ready, start a blog or find a literary agent. It doesn't matter. The point is that those thoughts are now out of you and on the page. You have begun the process of stepping out from your experience to gain perspective on it. The Secret Life of What You See. C.W. Metcalf was a comedian on television before he became a humor consultant to large organizations. If you think that's pretty funny as in a ridiculous job title, then you have probably never worked in a large organization. He does wonderfully amusing routines on stage that also teach people how to deal with the stress of downsizing or growth, or whatever aspect of corporate life is killing them at the moment. One of my favorites is when he pulls out an empty chair, identifies it as his job, and then goes into a hilarious rampage about just how utterly horrible Utterly horrible his job is, every day in every way. He takes a breath, points to the chair a few feet away, and says, "My job really sucks." Then he delivers the punchline, "Thank God I'm over here." We have all experienced this ability to separate ourselves from our experience and see it from a different perspective. Years ago, I found myself thoroughly hooked, raging over the phone at a customer care agent about a phone bill that was wrong yet again. I worked myself into a froth about the hours I had wasted trying to resolve the issue and the company's inability to correct its own error. Then, for no reason that I can explain, I simply stepped out from all the rage. It was almost like one of those out of body experiences in which the soul is said to rise up to the ceiling and look back down at the scene from above. With this new perspective, I was able to notice my anger for what it was, blind rage directed at the wrong person. I was able to experience compassion for the poor customer service woman. What a terrible job she had, listening to lunatics like me all day, and to understand that my alienating her would get me nowhere. I switched gears, apologized, and then, from a perspective that included another's point of view, we moved on to a space of constructive and collaborative problem solving. I had just stepped out, created the gap between stimulus and response. In the process, I had even recovered a bit of my humanity. This is the place from which you can choose behaviors based on your values rather than indulging in what your thoughts, emotions, and stories are insisting that you do. This newly created space allows you to be sensitive to the context, to shift your actions to what will work in the here and now rather than being driven by mindless impulses like justice, revenge, you can't treat me like this. When you have stepped out, you can see things you haven't seen before. Why do you think they call it blind rage? Take a look at this line drawing. What do you see? A, B, C. Obviously, it is the first three letters of the alphabets. But maybe there's another possibility. When we are hooked, we typically have only one perspective, one answer, one way of doing things. We are entangled with our thoughts, emotions, and stories. They dominate us, direct our action, and make us inflexible, often leaving us to wonder about the fact, what was I thinking? Only when we step out can we see that there might be more than one way of looking at the situation. The center sequel above is obviously a B, but now look at the exact same middle sequel on the next page. This is an illustration of what can happen when you see the same thing from a different view. We become sensitive to context, see more possibilities, and can respond in different ways. We become more agile. You can purposefully cultivate the ability to create the kind of distance that I inadvertently did during my unfortunate phone rage. In fact, to live an intentional, meaningful life and to really thrive, one of the most critical skills to develop is that this ability to take a meta view, the view from above that broadens your perspective and makes you sensitive to context. This skill helps you gain new perspective on your own emotions and on how others might be feeling and is a key factor in our ability to self-reflect. A meta view can be particularly useful when we make mistakes. We can torture ourselves over the simplest screw-ups, alternately brooding and bottling. Waking up in the middle of the night, 10 or 20 or 40 years later, to relive some stupid thing we did in junior high. So A, B, C, 12, 13, 14. A mistake is often a matter of Okay, so it is 13. B is like 13. A mistake is often a matter of life not going as we planned. When we blow it, we blame ourselves for failing to make the right choice or do the right thing. A mistake, however, often supposes a predetermined course, that we have failed to navigate a static world that is a certain way. But as the famous 19th century German Field Marshal Helmut von Moltke the elder was fond of saying, and I paraphrase, no battle plan ever survives first contact with the enemy. No matter how certain we are about the best course of action, the world is constantly changing and circumstances are unpredictable. And since no one knows for certain what will happen in battle or otherwise, everybody is bound to make a few decisions that turn out to be not so effective. But you can view your mistakes from other perspectives. Good mistakes, for example, can teach us something of value, such as don't rush up to pet dogs you don't know. When we look at it that way, we find a lesson to be learned and a potential for growth. To find that knowledge, we need to be able to examine our gaffes from multiple angles. Mansi will take over.
Yes, yes, I can. Anyone else wants to read?
Yeah, I would like to read.
Yeah, okay, okay, yeah, doctor. You read then. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think from when those these sorts of practices from here, no?
For ages, monks and mystics.
Okay, okay. For ages, monks and mystics have used practices such as meditation to dissolve the fusion between thought and thinker, impulse and action, freeing the mind from some of its tighter constraints and distorted interpretations. When these sorts of practices first became popular with Westerners in the late 60s, the operative phrase was be here now. The idea was that the undisciplined mind is easily distracted, whipsawing back and forth in time, engaging with push memories of the past and pull projections of the future. It is only by being fully in the present, fully attuned to the now, that we can deal with the moment in an emotionally agile way. Since the days when the Beatles and Beach Boys and Mia Farrow went to India to sit at the feet of the Maharishi, research in the behavioral and cognitive sciences has worked to demystify these gauzy imports from the East, and much of their focus has been on a technique for paying attention on purpose and without judgment. That technique is called mindfulness. Harvard researchers recently performed brain scans on 16 people. Before and after, they took an 8-week mindfulness training program to reduce stress. The results showed changes in the brain regions associated not just with stress but also with memory, sense of self, and empathy. It appears that practicing mindfulness improves connectivity inside the brain's network that keeps us from being distracted. By helping us focus, mindfulness also increases competence, it improves memory, creativity, and our moods, as well as relationships, health, and longevity in general. By paying attention to what is going on around us rather than ignoring it, or just going along with the program, we can become more flexible and insightful. One of the leaders in mindfulness research, the Harvard psychology professor Ellen Langer, has found that musicians who play mindfully produce music that audiences like better. Magazine salesmen who sell mindfully sell more subscriptions. Women who make presentations mindfully are viewed as being more forceful and successful because it turns out the speaker's mindfulness trumps any gender bias the audience might have. It is that quality of being fully present and available that audiences relate to most. Meanwhile, when we are in the audience, attending mindfully helps us break through our own distractions or premature judgments and see what others have to offer. Unfortunately, the term has become such a buzzword, especially in business circles, that there is now a bit of backlash. You know, a concept is overdone when you see mindful leadership for dummies in bookstores. And certainly the idea that everything you do, every moment of the day, should be approached with the purposeful in the moment attention is ridiculous. You really don't need to take out the recycling mindfully or comb your hair mindfully. That is, unless you find it rewarding. See the ways to become more mindful by Sidebar. Too many people, the practice also seems veiled in the flowery language left over from the ashram. That is why it may be easier to understand what mindfulness is really all about by first looking at its opposite, mindlessness. Mindlessness so easily leads us down the path of getting hooked. It is the state of unawareness and autopilot. You are not really present. Instead, you are relying too heavily on rigid rules or soap worn distinctions that have not been thought through. You know you are being mindless when you forget someone's name as soon as you hear it. You put the card credit in the trash and your food wrappers in your handbag. You can't remember whether you locked your door on your way out of the house. You bump into or break things because you are not really in the space you are in. You are so focused on what is coming up that you forget something you need to do right now. You do not notice that the words credit and card are swapped in the example a few sentences above. You eat or drink without being hungry or thirsty. You feel an emotion just came out of nowhere. On the other side of the ledger, it is mindfulness that allows you to notice your uncomfortable feelings and thoughts rather than be entangled in them. When you are mindful of your anger, you can observe it with greater sensitivity, focus, and emotional clarity. Perhaps discovering where the anger is actually coming from. You might even discover that your anger is really sadness or fear. But the calm awareness, the just being that is associated with hardcore mindfulness does not come easily to everyone. Blaise Pascal, the 17th century mathematician, and philosopher famously wrote, all man's miseries derive from not being able to sit in a quiet room alone. A series of studies at Harvard and the University of Virginia put this idea to the test. Psychologist Timothy Wilson and colleagues asked participants to sit alone with their thoughts for a period of about 10 minutes. Most of the subjects were miserable. Some went so far as to choose the option of giving themselves a mild electric shock rather than simply sitting there and being present. This illustrates just how uncomfortable people can be with their inner world. It could be they are unaware that we all have a self, an entity that exists apart from our appetites and attitudes. Something more than our social media presence, our resume, or our status. More than what we own, what we know, whom we love, or what we do. Mindfulness can help us get more comfortable with this inner essence and help us follow the original commandment of self improvement. Straight from the oracle of Delphi in ancient know thyself. In ancient Greece, know thyself. We can't read the instructions when we are stuck inside the jar. Mindfulness guides us to become more emotionally agile by allowing us to observe the thinker having the thoughts. Simply paying attention brings the self out of the shadows. It creates the space between thought and action that we need to ensure we are acting with volition rather than simply out of habit. But mindfulness is about more than knowing. I am hearing something or being aware, I am seeing something or even noticing I am having a feeling. It is about doing all this with balance and equanimity, openness and curiosity, and without judgment. It also allows us to create new fluid categories. As a result, the mental state of mindfulness lets us see the world through multiple perspectives and go forward with higher levels of self acceptance, tolerance, and self kindness. Ways to become more mindful. Begin with the breath. For a full minute, do nothing but focus on your breath. Start by breathing it and out slowly, counting to 4 as you inhale and counting to 4 as you exhale. Naturally, your mind will try to wonder, notice that, and then just let it be. Don't berate yourself for not being good at this. Each time a thought pops into your head, just try to bring your focus back to your breath. That is the whole game. It is not about winning, it is about engaging in the process. Mindfully observe. Pick an object in your immediate environment, a flower, an insect, your big toe, and focus on it for a minute. Really look at it and try to see it as if you have just arrived from Mars and are seeing this thing for the very first time. Try to isolate and identify its various aspects and dimensions. Focus on the color, the texture, any movement it makes, and so on. Rework a routine. Pick something you do every day and take for granted, like making coffee or brushing your teeth. The next time you do it, focus on each step and action, each element of sight and sound and texture and smell. Be fully aware. Really listen. Select a piece of music such as quiet jazz or classical and really tune in. Use headphones if you can, as if you had grown up in a cave and this was the first music you had ever heard. Don't judge it. Just try to identify different aspects of rhythm, melody, and structure. Ultimately, your efforts at mindfulness should take you beyond intellectual or even emotional classifications of your thoughts and experiences. You can be like the poet Andrew Marvell, heading into a garden and aiming for a green thought in a green shade, or maybe no thought at all, maybe just a deeper appreciation of green. This is when the mind stops insisting on being rational, stops being a problem solving or indexing machine, and becomes more of a sponge than a calculator. It just is. That kind of calm receptivity makes a natural partnership with curiosity, and when the two align, great things can happen. I often read my daughter, Sophie, to sleep with Harold and Purple Crayon, a delightful book about a curious 4-year-old who draw things to into existence. He wants to visit the moon, so he draws a path skyward and he's there. He draws an apple tree and then a dragon to protect the fruit. He is afraid of the dragon, so he draws water that covers his head. He gets lost and draws windows to find his way back home. Harold does not know where he is going or what is ahead of him, but he keeps using his purple crayon to draw out potential experiences. Curiosity, like Harold's, is a decision. When we decide to curiously explore the world inside us and outside, we can make other decisions more flexibly. We can intentionally breathe space into our reactions and make choices based on what matters to us and what we hope to be. Whenever I read this story to my daughter, I notice that Harold does not try to stop his emotions. When he is scared, he does not run away. Rather, he looks at his fear and then moves forward with creative solutions, like drawing water over his head to hide from the dragon and creating a new window to slip through. Harold, the fictional 4-year-old, can teach us all a thing or two, creating the space in between. Sonia was a partner at a leading accounting firm who came to me for help because, despite her MBA and many other accomplishments, She felt like a fraud. Her fear of being exposed made her tongue tied as she fumbled and tried to prove herself every day. Psychologists call Sonia's form of fear the imposter syndrome. She lived her life convinced that someday someone was going to discover the awful truth that she did not deserve to be where she was. Even though she had never received a negative performance appraisal, she felt stressed, unfulfilled, and anxious. Sonia was hooked in the thought blaming way that we discussed earlier. She treated her I am a fake fears as facts. She did not put her hand up for projects she would have loved to take on and approached her work with an overly narrow view of her talents and abilities, as if she were looking at herself through a telescope turned the wrong way. When she learned to bring a mindful curiosity to her experiences, she was able to step out, to turn the telescope around, to take in a wider perspective. Okay, I am having a thought that I am a loser. A person with thoughts like Sonia's might say, what else is new? That is my wounded child speaking up. I have lots of thoughts. I can notice and acknowledge all of them, good or bad, but I reserve the right to act on only those thoughts that will help me live the life I want to live. When I work with executives in groups, I often do an exercise that seems like a silly game for the little kids, but that has a surprisingly profound effect. I ask everyone to write on a sticky note the deepest fear they have about themselves or any unsurfaced subtext they carry with them into their work, relationships, and lives. I am boring, or I am unlovable, or I am a fraud, or I am a bad person. Then I invite each executive to slap that sticky note into onto his or her chest, and we put on some music and pretend we are at a party. Everyone shakes everyone else's hand, looks that person in the eye, and introduces himself or herself with, Hi, I am boring, nice to meet you, or whatever they have written down. By the way, I am boring is my label. I was always the boring one, so it seemed to me. This is an enormously powerful exercise. Afterward, the executives invariably tell me that the ugly truth they have struck on themselves, the harsh evaluation that has had so much power over them, has been tamed. I get emails years later in which people tell me what a relief it is to be able to see a thought as just a thought. They have given their fear a name and then are able to have had some fun at its expense. By doing so, they create more space to be themselves. They've stepped out. You can get a hint of this phenomenon simply by staring at the letters that spell your name. You have seen them so many times that you skip over multiple levels of representation and interpretation and immediately get to something along the lines of that is me. But when you really look at the Roman symbols that represent certain sounds in a written language, you begin to see their shapes, some of which are pretty funny looking. I'm looking at you, lowercase d. Or say a simple word like milk aloud. Now repeat it for 30 seconds. As you do this, you will notice a change. At the start of the experiment, you identify the word's literal meaning. The white stuff you pour on your cereal or in your coffee or dunked orange into as a child. Yet, as you repeat the word, something different starts to happen. The typical ways to relate to milk fade away, and you begin to notice the way it sounds, the way your mouth moves when you say it. The word is just a word. Now try the experiment with the aspect of yourself that you most dislike, or even with a challenging everyday experience. I am fat, nobody loves me, or I am gonna screw up the presentation. Pick your phrase, then say it 10 times. Now say it backward or mix up the order of the words. What you will see that is that these sounds turn from something meaningful to and evocative, which may hold great sway over you, into something remote, devoid of power, and slightly ridiculous. No longer are you entangled and looking out at the world from the perspective of the negative thought. Rather, you are looking at it. You have created space between the thinker and the thought. You have turned your telescope. This wiggle room and breathing space you create gives you the great gift of choice. You begin to experience thoughts as just thoughts, which is all they really are, rather than as directives that must be followed or even agonized over. You can have the thought that you are a fake, notice it, and then purposefully choose to set it aside. Because what is more important is making a meaningful contribution to this meeting you are in right now. You can experience and even rationalize the thought that your spouse should make the first move to patch up the argument you had this morning, and then pick up the phone to call him or her. You can accept your craving for creamy caramel. Notice your I want that thoughts, and then choose not to reach out your hand. This is not bottling, because you are not ignoring or denying or trying to suppress the thought, emotion, or desire. Rather, you are curiously noticing it and information it brings, but not letting it call the shots. Can somebody take over from here?
Yeah, I can, but do we want to read further, Maniselvi?
Actually, there is this point will get over in the next page. So we can read one more page
Okay,
and
okay.
stop.
Yeah, I can read. Anyone wants to read? Otherwise, I can read.
Yes, I may.
Okay, go on, go on. So,
If you rise high enough in an organization, eventually you will get a staff, and the staff will send reports. But you, the executive, need to decide which report to act on and which to set aside. Remembering that, like self serving courtiers, thoughts and emotions don't always speak the truth, and that they come and go, which is why we need to treat these reports as mere position papers subject to our evaluation rather than as representations of solid reality leading to action points. Thoughts and emotions contain information, not directions. Some of the information we act on, some we mark as situations to be watched, and some we treat as nonsense to be pitched into the circular file. Emotional agility means having any number of troubling thoughts or emotions and still managing to act in a way that serves how you most want to live. That is what it means to step out and off the hook. A different kind of linguistic stepping out popped up during the summer of 2010 when basketball superstar LeBron James faced a tough decision that would ultimately bring howls of complaint down on his head, but also two back to back world championships. Should he stay in Cleveland, Ohio, with his hometown Cavaliers, the team that had nurtured his career from the start? Or should he move to Florida to join the Miami Heat, a move that would help take him to a new level in his career? He decided to go to Florida and shortly thereafter described his next page. Thought process. One thing I didn't want to do was make an emotional decision. I wanted to do what is best for LeBron James and to do what makes LeBron James happy. Notice how he initially referred to himself using the first person pronoun I, but then when discussing how he didn't want to make an emotional decision, he switched to the third person LeBron James. At the time, many of his detractors attributed his choice of words to nothing more than his king size ego. Certainly understandable given the reputation of famous athletes. But subsequent events after his highly successful stint in Miami, he came back to play in Cleveland, suggest that he may indeed have been highly conflicted about his decision. If so, he used a sophisticated verbal strategy to manage his emotions. Research shows that using the third person this way is an effective technique for distancing yourself from stress or anxiety or frustration or sadness that can help you regulate your reactions. It also leads people to view future stressful situations more as challenges and less as threats. Techniques for stepping out. Number one, think process. See yourself as being in it for long haul and on the path of continuous growth. Absolutist statements drawn from old stories, I am bad at public speaking or I suck at sports, are just those stories. They are not your destiny. Number two, get contradictory. If Zen Buddhism, it is in Zen Buddhism, it is common practice to contemplate paradoxes such as what is the sound of one hand clapping? There are probably paradoxes from your own life that you could chew on in a Zen-like fashion. You may love and loathe your hometown, your family, or your body. You can feel that you are both the victim and the person responsible for a relationship breakdown. Embracing and accepting these seeming contradictions improves your tolerance for uncertainty. Third, have a laugh. Humor can be a stepping out practice because it forces you to see new possibilities. As long as you are not using humor to mask genuine pain bottling Finding something funny about yourself or your circumstances can help you accept and then create distance from it. Number 4, change your point of view. Try to consider your problem from the perspective of someone else, your dentist, perhaps your child, or even your dog. Number 5, call it out. Anytime you get hooked, identify that thought for what it is, a thought, and not and that emotion for what it is, an emotion. You can do this by introducing the language, I am having the thought that, or I am having the emotion that. Remember, you have no obligation to accept your thoughts or emotions, opinions, much less act on their advice. This, by the way, is my go to stepping out hack. It is easy to do on the fly or when you are in the midst of a difficult interaction. Number 6, talk to yourself in the third person. As in the LeBron James example, this strategy allows you to transcend your egocentric viewpoint and regulate your reaction.
Yeah,
Next
thanks.
page.
We'll stop here for the day.
Okay.
So anyone want to just express what are the key points they noticed in the reading today? Anything which resonated? Any challenges they could see being addressed here in the reading?
Yes, one of the point was mindfulness. It was very beautifully mentioned that how we can be mindful, doing little action like brushing our teeth in our day-to-day activities, and how we can focus on our breath, how we can observe the day-to-day situations like we have come from the Mars and observe something like you are watching it for the first time. So, and I think one point regarding mindfulness was that listening carefully. Yeah.
Right. Anything else about, the other aspect about, the points that you read so far on the, on, sorry, on the
Yes,
creating space in between?
yeah, I would want to highlight what I noticed, like the letters A, B, C, that part. So just one thing that came to my mind, that our surroundings play a very important role. So what are we surrounded with influences how we perceive things, is what came to my mind when I just when we just read this and see through this. Like when A and C are placed besides that number, like 13, it looks like a B. And then when 12 and 13 are 12 and 14 are placed, it immediately identifies as 13. So that is something that just came to my mind. Yeah.
Anything you read for the first time? Anything was like a okay wow moment that you got a answer in this?
You're asking me, Maniselvi?
No, anyone, everyone, I would say. Anything they would like
Okay,
to
okay.
add.
No, no, I already shared. Yeah, others can add.
तो मैं इसमें एक चीज़ शेयर करना चाहता हूँ, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग. मतलब आई रियली फाउंड टुडेज रीडिंग वेरी 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 हेल्पफुल and very relevant to the context which is there right now in my life. So if you can give me access to share, I would like to share a 1-minute video.
Yeah.
जैसे इसमें एक पॉइंट था, चेंज योर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. सो ट्राई टू कंसिडर योर प्रॉब्लम फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ समवन एल्स, जैसे डेंटिस्ट, चाइल्ड, इवन योर डॉग. तो इसमें हमने अभी एक एक्टिविटी की. तो आई वॉज प्रोवाइडिंग ट्रेनिंग इन LG. लेट मी ओपन द फाइल. तो वहाँ पे हमने उनको बोला कि सपोज आप जो भी प्रोडक्ट बना रहे हो, नॉन लिविंग प्रोडक्ट, दे बिकम द लिविंग बींग्स. तो वो कैसे सोचेंगे? तो मैं आपको दिखा रहा हूँ कैसे उन्होंने किया वो.
अब तीनों एक ही घर में है और वो आपस में बातें कर रहे हैं.
तो काफी इंटरेस्टिंग है ये। Just a minute. Yes. तो ये वाला पॉइंट है ना, स्टेपिंग आउट फ्रॉम योर थॉट। तो इसमें ये सारे लोग बन रहे हैं, कोई वॉशिंग मशीन बन रहा है, कोई फ्रिज बन रहा है, ऐसे। तो आप देखिए,
वॉशिंग मशीन अपनी तारीफ करते प्यार करते हैं। वॉशिंग मशीन और वॉशिंग देखो, मैं तो आराम लेके हूँ, आपकी कपड़े धोती हूँ सर, और आपको कुछ करना भी नहीं पड़ता है।
Can you raise the volume bit?
हाँ वॉल्यूम थोड़ा इसमें कम है, लेकिन अभी थोड़ा वो फास्ट तेज बोलेंगे और वॉल्यूम।
रेफ्रिजरेटर का मेन रोल है, घर में यदि रेफ्रिजरेटर ना हो तो रोज लड़ाई हो जाए, क्योंकि जो भी हमारे फूड से रिलेटिव है और वो मैं ही उसको अपने रिसोर्स करके कूलिंग कर रहा हूँ, कुछ कर रहा हूँ, ठीक है। तो यदि मैं ना हूँ तो रेफ घर में बहुत ही बड़ा प्लेस हो जाए, और आने वाले टाइम में मेरा फ्यूचर ज़्यादा ब्राइट है, ना कि वॉशिंग का। और वॉशिंग रेफ का हम देख भी रहे हैं, अलग अलग टाइप के फ्लावर टाइप्स वगैरह आ रहे हैं। तो यदि मैं अपनी ग्रोथ की बात करूँ या पास्ट की बात करूँ तो मैं उनसे ज़्यादा सुप्रीम हूँ। अरे आप दोनों क्या बोलते हो, उन औरतों से पूछो जो चूल्हा फूकती थी, मैं माइक्रोवेव अंदर से फ्रिज से निकाल।
ये थर्ड पर्सन माइक्रोवेव है, तो ये बता रहा है कि ये क्यों ज़्यादा यूजफुल है।
अंदर डाला, नाच नाच के पका दे और खा गए। कितना आराम मिला लेडीजों को। लेकिन माइक्रोवेव भी जब तक चलो फिर एनीवे कुछ भी है, जब तक रंग है कि रैप से ही निकाल के हम लोग कुछ नसीब है कि हम वॉशिंग मशीन की थी, मैं इतना अच्छा काम करता हूं। अरे आपके जितने भी कपड़े
ये पहला वाला वॉशिंग मशीन है, तो बता रहा है कि घर की सारी सफाई कपड़ों की तो मैं ही करता हूँ।
छोड़ो, वॉशिंग तो हाथ से भी धो सकते हैं, हाथ से भी धो सकते हैं, लेकिन रैप के बगैर भी होता वॉशिंग मशीन। ये सब को छोड़ो, हमने लाइफ को कितना अच्छा बनाया, तो लाइफ इज गुड।
फिर बाद में ये लोग डिसाइड करते हैं कि हम सबका पर्पस तो एक ही है, और लाइफ इज गुड। एलजी का मतलब फुल फॉर्म ही है लाइफ इज गुड। तो हम सब ने मिलकर लोगों की लाइफ को इजी बनाया है। तो मुझे आज की रीडिंग से इंसाइट मिला के और इस एक्टिविटी में इन डेप्थ जाया जा सकता है, और ये बहुत ही इमोशनल एजिलिटी के लिए इम्पोर्टेंट है।
Great share, Rahul. Thanks. Anything for anybody else? It resonated. Anything you want to talk about Rahul's video? Any feedback?
Yeah, I love the concept itself. So, personifying machines like that was wonderful. बहुत creative था. Thank you for sharing, Rahul.
Yeah, well,
See how things get activated, you start thinking in diverse ways, and you also assimilate the experiences that you have gained so far. So good that, we are able to think on different lines and improve on things. Yeah. Anyone else would like to share anything?
Yeah, one more line, one quote was there in the chapter that all man's miseries derive from not to getting sit in the quiet room.
Hmm.
It was telling the importance of mindfulness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, mindfulness was, I think, beautifully covered in these chapters, and I like the flow that she creates. So it's like a lullaby being sung, right? We keep on reading, and somewhere we don't want to stop unless we really have to stop. So I like the reading today as yesterday. It was like very flowing. She started with, how showing up is important, and then she moved on to meta view, which was also thinking about our thinking, or basically looking at it from a broader perspective, so that we get more possibility and more choices. Then she emphasized on the importance of mindfulness, and that she beautifully explained basis the examples that she brought forth. She said that, yeah, Rahul, you want to say something?
please continue. I will share later.
Okay. So basically, she said that by mindfulness, you can gain more flexibility, you can become more insightful from whatever you are, basically receiving or being present to, and it also builds empathy. Now she also brought a contrasting view of the mindfulness that we don't look into much. So ultimately, I think it's the quote of Socrates that she was referring, know thyself. So ultimately, the thing is, most important thing is we have to understand ourselves and look at situations so that it becomes more open to possibilities and more choices that we can have instead of just going with the flow or a pattern behavior. Further, it also emphasized again the importance of self-acceptance, tolerance, and self-kindness. How mindfulness actually bring these things automatically. I like the play of words with sponge and the calculator, right? That mindfulness makes us like a sponge rather than a calculator, and it brings the calm receptivity to us so that we naturally become partners with curiosity, which is more important for us to have look at more kind of a possibility thinking. And then took us to the word is just a word, and we have a gift of choice, and thoughts are also just thoughts. So the way she is using the examples to bring forth the point, maybe about the accountant who had joined and had some issues with how she was dealing with reality, as well as as well as getting the reports, and not all reports are holding the truth. They are just an a report subject to our evaluation, and they are not clear directions, but it is a choice that we have with us. Finally, the wordplay that she brought in with the third person perspective, it also was a good and creative way for us to manage our situations. So overall, I like the reading and the flow, and the examples were such that it will hold ground into the mind. Yeah. So thanks everyone for today's thing. Rahul, please go ahead.
So I was saying there is a lot of NLP connection also in this chapter, like just absolute statement की बात हुई है ऊपर, तो we can connect that with deletion, distortion, generalization. क्योंकि बहुत लोग सारे ऐसे स्टेटमेंट बोलते हैं कि नहीं AI तो मेरे बस का नहीं है, तो मतलब नहीं है तो नहीं है, या फिर जैसे फ्लाई ऑन द वॉल टेक्निक स्टेपिंग आउट के लिए, तो काफ़ी अच्छा है, NLP का भी इसमें कनेक्शन लग रहा है और काफ़ी कुछ उसका रिवीजन हो जाएगा अगर हम डेली कनेक्ट करें तो.
Nice observation. But Rahul, to be very frank, every book will have a flavor of NLP because NLP is a reflection of life,
Whatever
and it
works is
is
NLP.
yeah. But yeah, it's good that you could identify it, and it enriches
connecting
the
the dots,
experience of
yeah.
reading. Yeah. So anything else? Anyone? Okay. So I have a short clip. If people have time, I can play it. Yeah.
Yes,
And-
yes, please go ahead.
And I just want you to see whether you could make sense of whatever is there. 1 minute.
What is the message from this video?
Yeah, that is what was the question. How do
But it's
you
a very
connect
good
it?
video.
How do you connect this incident that just happened between the father and the child on the court with stepping out? Whatever we read so far.
Hi, I like to weigh in.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very beautiful movie, Pursuit of Happiness. From that movie, this scene is particular very favorite of mine because there is Will Smith teach his son that whatever you think about yourself and whatever you dream, have your dream, never like first of all, never give up on that. And if someone is not capable to see that, it is their fault, not yours. So never judge yourself by the eyes of others, because what you can see, they can never see. Like all the startups we have around us and all the new innovations we see, that only the see by the some people, not all the people. They can only use the things. So in the same way, we always see ourselves by the eyes of others, and we always see that if someone, what we say, किसी ने हमें अच्छा बोला या someone said we are worthy of something, then only we say, then only we see worthiness of ourselves. And I guess this is very best thing to teach our young ones or to the ourselves, that we have our things. It is okay if we are not doing, if we are not able to do everything by our own, but if we are doing something that is we can only do, we are great. And this is we have to keep in our mind, and we have to believe that if whatever we can do, like whatever I can do, maybe someone cannot do.
हो जाएगा रेडी
So
अभी
like every person is a winner if he can see that way. We don't have to win all the things, or we don't have to be what we say, हमें हर चीज में माहिर नहीं होना चाहिए. We just have to do what we can do best, like ikigai or everything.
Okay, great to look at that ways. And look at from a broader view as to what is the message of the video. I would also like you to just step back a bit and go through whatever we read today on stepping out and see whether you could connect anything about the emotions that rose within Chris, right? And how the emotion rose in the child. What was the behavioral change? How was the emotion stopped? And how did Chris come back? Shri, you could notice any difference?
Yeah, like he was stunned. Maybe he was just stunned, and he agreed with the thing what his father told him. Like never give up on your dreams, or never, let's fight for your dreams.
But
That time he agreed.
didn't he accept it as a truth coming from his dad?
Yeah, he accepted.
Right. So there
That
was a
shows
blind
one.
acceptance of what his father said, right? Similarly, the child always looks about father with kind of a that father will teach the right thing to us. Yeah, please go ahead. Next, what happened?
I guess after that he accept that thing, and I guess the video is ended. No? I guess. Hello.
Can you speak a bit louder, Shri?
Yeah, I guess there is. I don't see anything after that. I guess
Okay,
that
fine.
is the
Not
end.
an issue, not an issue. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. Anyone? Mansi, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just connecting the video with the stepping out. What I
Yeah.
felt was that it was more about first he just expressed himself, like the emotion just blurted out of his old existing beliefs, and then he stepped out facing them, like he showed up for his emotions, and then he stepped out of those old limiting beliefs, and then he reframed those for the son again, like because understanding so he got more mindful and aware that this could impact him as a belief forever, and so he just corrected himself. Is how I saw it, like
Great. So that
connecting with the
is,
book.
yeah, right. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to add, what we just shared.
Hmm.
See, his father is also telling him only till the level of his own wisdom. Okay. But the point here is that it is only that, whatever you have your desire in life, okay, with your true self, and like you have to keep going, you have to keep doing your best every day, and then only you will know how far you can go, right? if I say something, I'll say something based on my own set of belief, right? But there can be higher than that, right? So the point is, you have to just follow your desire of the heart, your intuition, with complete faith, belief, and keep doing that with your best effort every single day, right? And there is a very great chance that you reach your goal, basically. But
Right.
the point is, how far you can go is based on how passionate and how committed you are to your work, basically,
Right.
right?
Right,
So now,
Manish. That's what Chris also said at the end, that don't
Mhm.
allow others to say, right? If you have to do something, you have to do it. You have to work towards it. So I think that is what you are also meaning, that one has to find their own truth and
Yeah.
according to the goal that they have. Yeah, valid point, sir. Yeah.
And
Anybody
one more
else?
thing,
Yeah.
yeah, your heart knows more than what you do, right? So
Hmm.
just follow your passion, your intuition,
Hmm.
whatever your heart is happy with. And when you do everything from your heart, right? You're always full of passion and energy. That's what I shared in the morning also. So you will never run out of energy. And and the best part is do your best every day. And this is also what we read in one of the books, that the best way to love yourself and the best way to love God is to do keep doing your best every day. And that is aligned with the desire of the heart,
Right.
and also in alignment with the mind, basically.
Right.
So only the time will tell how far you can go. You might go beyond what you can imagine today, right?
Yes. But you have to keep that mind open mind to
Obviously.
see the things and be mindful to what is coming your way. Agree.
And one more thing
Anyone
is you have
else?
to,
Hmm.
and just want to add one more thing. You have to keep doing that unwavering, and never have never have any doubt on your effort, on your goal. Well, I think that's the best thing you can do to yourself.
Right.
Yep.
Anything else? Anyone? Yeah. Okay. So the why I played this video was you could see a drastic change in between what Chris' opinion was in the first half, and if you say the stare back by the child after being told that he will not be great in basketball triggered the reflection in Chris, and he evaluated he stepped out of the emotion and then he made an evaluation that what I have to actually convey is not what I feel, but what my child has to listen, or what I should be advising him from a greater value perspective, that I'm the father and he trusts me. I need to guide him, right? I need to care for him. I have to look out for him. So if you see, the initially he just started when the child made a wish that I want to be a pro in basketball. He just vented out whatever emotion came and he worked as a patterned way of behavior, that is from his inadequacy, feeling of inadequacy, that he never succeeded in life in many things, so his son will also not be. Once he sees the way the child is disappointed and doesn't want to do any action after that, he realizes his mistake and then he basically steps out of the whole emotion and relooks at what is the most important thing right now that he has to do. So he chose that maybe rather than thinking of his past again, be a responsible father and give a better response to the child so as to guide him to and he was very upfront, so he was very genuine, that he didn't say I made a mistake, but in so many words he said, don't allow anyone to tell you what you should be doing, right? If you want something. So he also brought the child to reality that you have your own ground to play your game, right? So that was very hard hitting for me and that's why I shared it. Yeah. So I think it's quite late today, so if we can close tomorrow. Yeah.
Manish, I just want to add one quick thing is, when we are following our passion, obviously, unless we know everything about our psychology, so many other things, spirit of the soul and so many other things, we always have some, we always keep some doubt on ourselves, right? And that doubt keep us that low energy and less confidence than what we need to take action and things like that. So when I was reading this book about the heart that is aligned with our emotion, so basically what is happening is uh, see, what we truly want to desire in life, that align with our core values, that is like a wish of the God through us. Okay, so so if we align that with our soul and spiritual well-being and all those things, that our deepest desire, what we want to become in life, is the will of the God through us. Okay, and there is no point that we doubt that will, the wish of the God through us, right? So it's just about having that strong feeling and that faith that give the like all the emotion
Hmm.
stability, agility, whatever we have discussed today.
Hmm.
So the thing is how strongly you are connected to your deepest soul desire, your own creation. And I feel that if we can align everything with the spirit of God, like whatever how we do it, but I think that makes a very strong impact on our emotional stability and how best we can take action in life. And with that understanding and deep emotion, the positive emotion in us, that will give us all the energy, all the stability that we need emotionally, non-emotionally. That is all like unending fuel. Your uh, the wish of the God through us. That is the we should align that feeling with our passion. So I think I to me that give me a very strong confidence in totality. Okay, to keep working on my ambition of life, basically. So I think we should connect all the dots, and then it will give us the direction where we need to go, and keep going on that without any second doubt, like
Right.
not a single doubt, basically. Yeah.
So this is a very strong belief to have, and it will carry us afar. But the thing what we are discussing here is more as to how we deal with the emotions day in, day out. What you are saying is a very strong belief one can carry around so that we are always looking from a optimism perspective. Yes, that would also help. Anyone else? If not, then we can call it a day. Whatever I thought of taking today, maybe I'll cover it tomorrow then. Yeah?
Yeah, I just want to say something like
Yeah.
I think Rahulji wanted to say something. Does he?
No, he
If
had
yes,
raised
then
hand.
you can just
I had asked him. He gave a
okay.
response then. After that, I didn't. Rahul, you want to say something?
Because I remember he said I'll share later or something. No, I don't know. Like if he has
हाँ
to.
वो फिर आई वाज शेयर में एनएलपी वाला कनेक्शन वो हो गया
Okay, okay, done. Okay, no problem.
Okay. So thanks everyone. See you tomorrow, same time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Maniselvi.
Thank you.
Thank you all.